All dreams considered. All dreams considered. All dreams considered. Welcome back to All Dreams Considered with Sarah. Today I am sitting with my friend Jeffrey, and Jeffrey is an avid daydreamer. And one of the reasons that I wanted to talk with Jeffrey is that I'm in this world as I'm exploring dreaming and exploring how can I be the change I want to be in this world. I'm constantly looking for people to daydream a better world with me. I mean, we know what the world is today. We know, we can look at the news, we can look at the people around us, we can look at the situations. But I also believe that that is a temporary situation, that we are moving through history into a completely brand new world. And so in order to get to the new world, I believe that we need to come together and find ways. We don't have to agree on exactly the same vision, but I think that we need to find a way to agree on, or just daydream together, what do we want this world to be that we're coming into. And so as an avid daydreamer, your blog says that your blog of Thought Bubbles is the unrated musings of a daydreaming acting coach. So let's daydream, my friend.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the community, I don't think that you would be doing this if you didn't have some sort of vision for what you wanted to see come into the world. So can you talk a little bit about that? Like why do you do what you do, and how do you see that your daydreams have informed the path that you are on? Is that too broad?
It's huge.
I like to make it so that you can go any way. Tangents are great, but also, where do you want to take this? It's I believe that conversations are, I don't think that anyone can really plan where it's going to go.
No.
And allowing it to take shape. It's kind of like the dream, the spoken word. The spoken word is part of the universe, the one verse that we are all speaking together. And so it's bringing this world into existence. And so the old world of hierarchy, and this is the way that you do things, and there's a right and a wrong way, I believe is passing away. The old structures, at least in my nightly dreams even, that world is crumbling. And so we're going to have the opportunity to call into being, what do we want in this new world? What is the magic to bring in? And I believe that you've been doing this for years.
So by daydreaming, I suppose what I mean is that my mind wanders quite a bit, and I am someone who is, one person might say that I am easily distracted. I would say instead that I notice things. And daydreaming for me is rarely intentional. It isn't something where I can write down a goal and then just go wander the world and daydream that goal into existence. I haven't been able to do that yet. I don't know how to do that.
Now that you mention it, I don't think I've actually tried to do it that way either.
Yeah.
It's not really how daydreaming
I know
works.
there are people who do that. But
yeah.
I think for me it's more just noticing things, letting my mind wander. I do believe that serendipity is real. I do believe that when we notice things that flat out would never occur to us. There's probably a reason for that, and it's nothing to be insistent about. I can't say, oh well, today I noticed that teal truck whizzing by me on the freeway, and that means
right.
that I'm going to have a new car, or I can't insist upon what it means, or what kind of outcome might happen in my life, if any. But they are significant. When I notice things that my mind, my imagination probably would not latch onto, or something that my imagination has not tended to latch onto yet.
Mm-hmm.
Those are interesting moments.
Mm-hmm.
And they're good moments for curiosity, because it's sort of like, why this now? Why this? What is it? What is it really? What is it? What could it be? Mm-hmm.
Here is a word from our sponsor at Inner Oasis.
Welcome to Inner Oasis Mind, Body, Spirit. We're in the heart of historic downtown McMinnville, and we offer you inspiration, tools, and gifts for the soul.
It sounds to me like, I know you call it serendipity, and what you're describing to me in my mind translates as synchronicity. The noticings, there's these things that suddenly, I just noticed that, and there's a reason for it. I don't have to know exactly what that reason is, but that's something that, my subconscious wanted to point out. My subconscious somehow, pardon me, highlighted this and said, look, pay attention.
Yeah. And I can trust that knowing the reason why I saw the thing that I saw is not as paramount. I think there's something maybe comforting in just trusting that I've seen this, and now it's somewhere floating around in the cauldron of my brain, and it'll bubble up when it is needed.
Mm-hmm.
So synchronicity.
Mm-hmm.
I like that word. That word makes me think of rhythm.
Mm-hmm. I do think that everything in life is a cycle. And so when you bring up the rhythm of synchronicity, of course, synchronicity also brings to mind for me the Police. They had 2 songs and they had the album of Synchronicity. Although I don't constrain my understanding of the word to that, I see synchronicity as kind of what you just described, where my subconscious has some agenda. And then my wandering mind, or my conscious mind, like latches on to something like, oh my gosh, there's a sheet on that whiteboard that's actually turned around backwards. I was thinking about ordering sheets. Is that telling me that maybe, I actually, it's not telling me anything at the moment. It's not like, but it's curious to me that just this morning I was thinking about needing new sheets.
The brain does that. There's a few technical terms for that dynamic, and of course I can't remember any of them. But that thing that happens when say you're thinking about making a significant decision. Maybe it's buying a new car, maybe it's getting your hair cut a particular way, maybe it's something along those lines. And So you go and you look at the kind of car that you might like to have, or you start, collecting inspiration pictures of the kind of haircut that you might like to have, the way that you imagine yourself being restyled. And then, all of a sudden, as if by magic, everywhere you go, even though you're not necessarily searching for it, the world, the world has that car you're thinking about passing by you at every other intersection, or, everywhere you go, every space you're in, you see people with a similar hairstyle that you were thinking about taking on, or whatever. I can't remember what they titled it, but that dynamic where the brain notices more based on something that you feel kind of emotionally invested.
Some sort of a bias.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're saying, and it's on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah.
I actually learned about it in my freshman year of high school. I had this class called Personal Development.
Mm-hmm.
Great class,
Yeah.
And our teacher was talking about this very thing. He's mentioning that, now that, as soon as you have something brought to your attention, suddenly you will see it more often.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's not that it wasn't always there.
No, it's always there.
Yeah.
We just don't notice it.
We filtered it out.
Yeah. It's not a priority to the imagination until it is.
Mm-hmm.
Fall in love with a new musician or musical group or something, and all of a sudden you'll start hearing more of their music when you're out in public or in other spaces where you don't control the noises that are happening in the space. It's little magic.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think of imagination as magic, because I think of it as imagination. Even if you look at when I look at the word, I see it's like I magic inside myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's imagination to me.
Mm.
But the magic that we have access to that we don't always acknowledge through daydreaming. Okay, let me rephrase that. That was not good grammar. We have access to magic all the time, as you've discovered through daydreaming. And I know that most of our listeners probably daydream as well all the time. I don't think that that's unusual. What is unusual is someone who confesses, I daydream.
Oh. Well, I think that some people might prefer other words. I suppose if there's a group of people in a very, very formal, organized sense, then they might use a word like brainstorming.
Huh?
I suppose if we're talking about individuals, quietly living their lives, maybe a word like meditation might come up.
Or contemplation.
Or contemplation, or soul searching. I like the word daydreaming.
I do too.
Yeah. And again, I mean, it's not. It's not to say that by daydreaming I can achieve a result. But for me, I suppose, replaying a conversation in my mind after it's happened, listening to it again, listening on some kind of level, maybe a little deeper, that we aren't often prepared to do or feel like we have time to do when we're in real-time exchange and dialogue with somebody. You know, I would consider that daydreaming. Thinking about possibilities, I would consider that daydreaming. Very, very mindlessly staring off into the fire, I would consider that daydreaming. Anything, I suppose, that kind of allows the moments where my imagination latches on to something and it makes me curious, and I start asking questions. What is it? You know, what is it really? What is it? It's daydreaming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Following curiosity, noticing things, wondering about it, following the curiosity. Yeah.
The last time we spoke, there was a lot of noise, but we talked about school some, and how in school a lot of times, at least when I went to school, I was not always encouraged to come up with new ideas. I was more instructed to, you know, do a lot of math exercises, you know, do all the odd math exercises, and then the next day you do all the even ones, which isn't, I mean, I'm sure that there's somebody out there who can turn that into a daydreaming exercise, but for me it wasn't always that way.
Yeah.
Which I guess I'm trying, there was a point that you said there that I was trying to go for, that's not really something that our society of the past has encouraged, and yet I would like to see that encouraged in the future world, in the world that is being created right now.
Well, as an example, when I was going to school, it was mandatory at the beginning of the school day, whoever's class, or you know, whatever the subject it was at the beginning of the school day, whether you had one teacher for the whole day or whether you went from room to room to room to different teachers, wherever you were at the very beginning of the day, the start of the school day, the school bell would ring, then everyone would stand up and recite out loud the Pledge of Allegiance. And everybody knew the Pledge of Allegiance. We had learnt it. We knew the words. At no point in the process of learning those words did any teacher ask us anything about what they meant. At no point in my school years of standing up first thing in the morning, looking at a flag and saying those words. At no point did I stop to think, what does this mean?
Mm-hmm.
It was just something that we did. And there was not really a spirit of inquiry about it. It was not, it's not the same as saying those words and being able to embrace them because they are true for you and they resonate for you and you believe in them and you believe in what you are saying so much that you're going to behave very strangely and stand up on your feet and look at a flag and talk to the flag. It was just the ceremony. And I think a lot of things were learnt that way for a very, very long time. And in the last decades, in some places longer, I think, that lacking of a spirit of inquiry, that deficit, I think, has finally begun to crumble.
You know? I agree.
And I mean, I that's what I see. That's the impression that I've received, and I hope that it's true. But I hope that more people are not just asking questions, but that when people are learning anything, asking questions is part of that process, as opposed to, simply saying, this is a poem by Robert Frost, memorize it. I think we make much, much deeper connections. I think we become I suppose more enlightened about the things we study when we ask questions, not just to learn it for the sake of learning it because it's on the curriculum, because that's what we're doing this year.
Right.
But to look into it and be frustrated by things and follow your curiosity and then be able to articulate from a place of what you have taken from that, as opposed to just, this is the received product.
Mm-hmm.
So I find it hopeful. But I also think it could go away very easily because I keep feeling like a 2 steps forward, 2 steps back kind of teeter-tottery dynamic in society at the moment. Things are very...
I see what you're saying.
Things are very polarized.
Thinking about, and I mean, and yet, I see what you're saying, and I see why you say that, and yet I think at the same time, I see tremendous progress, even with the apparent 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, because there's been 2 steps back, but no one's being quiet about it.
Yes, they are different things. There can... Yes.
And there's even, I've heard of very creative ways that people are starting to fight it. There's a bill that is being, put forth that's going to go all the way up. And it's a long game, but basically... people are starting to see things as, okay, well, I don't like that, and I don't like this, so I'm going to make a law, or propose a law that is based upon the same foundation as this thing I don't like against something I definitely don't like. And then when it gets all the way up, either way, we win. Either way, I don't know if you're, there's this gun control law that's being worded in a certain way in California. And super genius to do that. It's like, fascinating. We're gonna, not in the not too distant future, have, even though it's apparently 2 steps forwards and 2 steps backs, there's this amazing creativity that has come up and said, oh yeah, well, let's take this and use it in an unexpected way.
Yeah.
And win one of these two things.
Yeah.
Either one, we win. So I like to think that the world, maybe not the whole world yet, but a lot of people in the world are like, okay, how can we dream up some sort of win-win situation, which is what I think this new proposed law is about.
Cool.
Now, whether or not I agree with the law is totally different, because I haven't looked into the minutia of it, and I know that a lot of times things might look, it's really easy to slide things through with fine print, but I envision a world where fine print is no longer hidden. Where
greater transparency.
Yeah, where I don't have to wear my glasses to read this anymore. It's like, oh no, it's out there for everyone to see.
Yeah.
And a lot of things are out there for everyone to see. It's just that a lot of times media is distracting us from the things that are there.
Yeah.
Even a lot of these polarized things that were like 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, a lot of those decisions have been made at the same time that significant information has been released. And those things, which are really polarizing and attract a lot of attention and the media is highlighting, are kind of a smokescreen for this other stuff. I mean, not that those aren't important, but it's being used doubly as something to make sure that we don't notice this other thing that's happening, if that makes sense. Sometimes I wonder how much detail I should go into, but I'm not really trying to make this a political podcast. That's not my goal.
If it's of comfort to you, I mean, I believe I understand what you've just told me, but you've been admirably vague as well. So if it's open to interpretation, then
clear as clear as mud? No, not quite mud. Yeah. I see a lot of room to be hopeful.
Yeah.
But I'm really glad that we are seeing, what is in the sludge in the bottom of the tank. It's not hidden anymore. It's like we're taking a flashlight and we're like spelunking at last.
Yeah. I think slowly it seems, I can only speak from the perspective of the 2 eyes that I look through. I cannot say that this is so, but the impression that I have, and it's an impression that does give me hope, is that more and more people have begun to discover or accept or realize or dare to believe that the way they feel matters.
Yeah.
That it's not just oh, I'm having a bad day, snap out of it, or oh, I want this, but nobody ever gets what they want, or what have you. I think more and more people are slowly kind of realizing that yes, these things do matter. This, you're here, you're alive, this is your life, it's only going to last as long as it lasts. What kind of tragedy would it be if we hated every moment?
Yeah.
I think so. There's a restlessness there, and sometimes it's very inspiring for me to see from a distance, and sometimes there's like restlessness. There's some whiplash. There's some there's some difficulties as well, but on the whole, I think that's another one of those turns that's inspiring, and I think probably good in the long run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the whiplash some days. Woo. I mean, if you get too caught in the details, oh my gosh. But yeah, we're daydreaming, though, the future that we want to bring into being, and so I love finding people who are of a similar mind. Of yes, I see that this black box is a black box, but I also see that I can actually find a way to look behind the black box, and I can find ways of learning what's inside the black box. Maybe I have a drill. People that are willing to, just because it's a black box, not necessarily write it off or get focused on the black box, but daydream of tools that can help us to resolve any issues that might be caused by that black box.
That's the. I think I detect some of that inventor mind that you have. Solutions, tools. How can we use this?
Right. Well, we're here, I believe, and not everybody has to agree with me on this, and I'm okay if nobody believes me, but I believe that we came to this world to have amazing experiences. And as part of those experiences, we're learning various lessons, but it's like the ultimate elective. It's an elective in that I get to learn whatever I choose to learn from whatever situation or class I take. And so the grade that I get, whatever grade the teacher wants to give me, is not the grade that I get out of this life. If that makes sense. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oops. The community, though, let's come back to community. Tell me more about your daydream of community. I actually saw that, I believe, in a post that you did.
There are lots of ways to answer that question.
I know. I intentionally give vague questions so that I can get interesting answers.
You're very good at it.
Well, I want to plumb what matters to you, if that makes sense.
I'm not sure that my community is for everyone. I think I would find it inspiring and comforting and good, and it may very well be somebody else's nightmare, and everything that's wrong with the world. So I don't know.
So to kind of take that, I believe also in my vision of the future, we're coming into the world where I get to step away from the nightmares. There's plenty of people that want to experience that nightmare or that dream that I just don't resonate with. And so therefore I can, step into that dream and say, whoa, hey, you guys have fun, see ya, and I'll go do my own dream. So or try other dreams to find where I fit in the world. And so your dream of community, even though it might not be everyone's dream, is, I think, going to totally resonate with the select few people that you actually want to be a part of your community. And the fact that it would be a nightmare to most other people is beautiful, because you don't want those other people in, those other people would make your community, your daydream of your community, a nightmare.
Oh.
Does that make sense?
It does. I hear what you're saying. Yeah. Community is a big word. The world is a community.
Yes.
And then, a classroom is a community too. I tend to value the idea of a community that cares about how it feels as a whole. Is it happy as a whole? If there's 10 people in this community, are 6 of them really, really, really happy, and then 4 of them absolutely terrified and feeling alone and not very safe? There's probably work to be done there. But I mean, obviously, I value, for me it's obvious, I guess, but I am someone who values daydreaming, therefore I am someone who values slowness, quietude, letting things bubble and brew, and not forcing results, but letting them float up, be found, be discovered. So yeah, I see a community that is less hurried than a lot of the world is, less really, really less obsessed with hustle culture. Really, really less obsessed with that, I'll sleep when I'm dead kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sleep is delightful.
Oh yeah, sleep is healthy, sleep is cozy, sleep is, I think mostly it's about, and I realize I'm being kind of vague in my feedback, because I suppose these are things I would like to see of communities I am a part of, regardless of what their what their thrust or what their purpose is, but people allowed to go kind of slowly, people allowed to feel what they want to feel, people allowed to be brave, and to be kind. I think kindness matters too, and I'm happy. I'm very happy that seems to be recognized finally, or starting to be recognized.
Yeah. I think we are starting to value multiple ways of living. Like you mentioned, you know, the hustle culture, I'll sleep when I'm dead. I used to be part of that. And I'm not anymore. And I see a lot more people around me, especially since, you know, the lockdown. I mean, we see it actually everywhere right now, you know, where people are like, yeah, it's not worth my time to do that job. Nope, sorry, that money is not, no. Because I want to have a different life. I don't want to continue the life that I have been told I want. I'm like, not just me, but other people are like, that's not a great life, you know. What is life for me? Well, I'm figuring it out. I think I see that everywhere. People are stepping away from fear and stepping into, you know what, the universe loves me. Now, I don't know that they all say that in their heads. That's my words. But I have been hearing more and more stories of people who have said, well, I just went through the worst thing that I thought could have possibly happened. And you know what? Thank God that worst thing happened, because it freed me from the prison I didn't realize I had put myself in.
Yeah.
But yeah, the daydream of there are so many more ways to have a good life.
Yeah.
And I can even appreciate watching someone else live their life without having to want that life for myself.
Yeah.
And I don't need to judge them for it. I just need to look at them and say, wow, congratulations on finding what resonates with you.
Yeah.
Because that's beautiful. I mean, because we're all so different. And we have different backgrounds, different perspectives, different chemistry, different, you know, likes, dislikes, different. I mean, embracing the difference without feeling threatened by it.
Yeah. That's a goal.
Well, I think perhaps we should try and pick this up another day.
Okay. Let us adjourn.
Let us adjourn for the moment. But yeah, I think that daydreaming with you a new world and like understanding what it means to be in this new world and bringing this into reality could be really beneficial for our whole community.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
And once again, this has been Jeffrey Puukka, and I am Sarah with All Dreams Considered. Thank you.
All dreams considered. All dreams considered. All dreams considered.